The first question is, in what ways does your media project use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media projects? So the first thing we really want to touch on is in that our film really sticks to the foundations of a thriller. The tension, the struggle, the sort of mild violence, the edge of the seat, the climax, the principal character being unexpectedly or unknowingly involved in a danger or potential deadly situation. The environment in which we filmed it was in sort of the suburbs, city sort of environment, and our whole sort of theme of it is really a kidnapping theme in which ordinary citizens are unaccustomed to danger. And obviously we have the mystery villain, which is the kidnapper. So really the overall, the basis, the foundations of a thriller film are encapsulated within our film, because we stick to the main foundations of those just discussed. My group chose the kidnapping scenario because we believe it's the best scenario in which we can capture all of the elements of the thriller through, you know, this the sort of tension of whether the kidnapper is actually, you know, going to go ahead with it, the edge of the seat as the kidnapper comes to get her, the climax where, you know, she's taken away, the fact that she doesn't really know what's going on or ever going on, and that she's always sort of in that deadly situation in an area which, you know, looks quite a nice and peaceful area, but in fact, you know, it is a scene where, you know, a terrible crime is about to happen. Through choosing the kidnapping scenario, we then decided what elements we wanted, and we built upon this by deciding we wanted a stalker scenario in which we would then build onto through creating an uneasy and at times scary atmosphere. We needed an atmosphere that had an audience on the edge of the seats, because we sort of we didn't want the audience to see what was round the corner, which is why we filmed in such a way in that the camera angles were always sort of away, or rather obstructed the vision from around the corner. And we also decided that we would film at night, as darkness always adds to the mystery and unclearness of what's going on. What we knew we didn't want, firstly, was to film in daytime, as not many kidnappings really happen during the day, and in a stalker scenario there would be no sort of mystery element. In terms of linear, our film, linear, non-linear, our film is linear, as I personally find it the best way that an audience can follow a film much easier when a film is a simple start, middle and end. And also our film is based around basically a girl being kidnapped and saved, so there isn't much room to be jumping around the sort of storyline, except for perhaps flashbacks from the parents' past lives, you know, within the cult. As we mentioned before, the camera angles we used were mostly wide shots, because that shows really, you know, the main character and the environment around her, but also shows her expression, you know, within the wide angle shot. And we believe this worked quite well, as most of the time there were other things happening in and behind her and around her that the audience could pick on as we reached the climax, but the character herself wouldn't know what was going on. I believe our film was successful, as it contains the main thriller concepts, you know, the struggle and the tension of the mild violence as she's sort of walking home, and there's that tension building of we know that someone's following her, she doesn't know. As she gets home, you know, she hears noises, you know, she sees the person standing in the back garden, and then obviously the mild violence as the struggle happens. And the idea that the audience is always on the edge of the seat, you know, through her walking home, through the car bit, you know, whether obviously this car is trying to scare her and trying to make her uneasy, and we don't know what's really going on, why they're beeping, why they've got the lights on, why they even let her, you know, go away. So it's that constant idea of building, you know, on this sort of climax, you know, and getting to the climax and always keeping the audience on the edge of the seat. In terms of the principal character sort of, you know, always not knowing what's going on, but, you know, always having that element that she knows that something isn't right, but she doesn't know that actually in what serious danger she's in. I believe that, you know, we hit that really right on the head, really, and that's one of the foundations that we really built around, and that we wanted and an atmosphere that was really scary and really made her feel uneasy, and you can see that in the way that she acts around sort of the car, and that she's always very nervous to walk across the road. And then obviously, as she sees, when she's at home and she sees that someone's in the back garden, you know, she moves away, but she doesn't make any noise, because she really has no idea what's going on, but she knows that she's in a potentially deadly situation. So I believe we hit that element straight, you know, right on the head. As for the environment, you know, we filmed it in a suburb, we filmed it in a sort of city, you know, a very middle class sort of environment, in which wouldn't normally be associated with sort of this danger element, but within the nighttime sort of atmosphere, the lighting, I believe, although it was quite bad at times and you can't really see what's going on, added to the effect, because it's an area which is quite dark and quite mysterious, and there's lots of corners to turn, there's no one ever really around, and it's just these big humongous houses that are there for her protection. And yet no one is around to sort of help us. So I believe that sort of element and the environment we filmed in really added to the scariness and uneasiness, and the thriller elements that we've encapsulated. And again, really, you know, with the ordinary citizen, you know, it's a young girl being stalked, so that really hits it on the head again. In it, that's an ordinary citizen unaccustomed to danger. So that, I think, you know, hits it perfectly. And above all, we have a mystery villain, or rather two villains, who have come to take her away. And obviously, the car driver, you never really see who it is. You know it's two big, male, strong people, but you never know who it is or what actually really they're kidnapping her for. You just know that these two men are not people that you would really associate with, because they are, you know, mystery villains. I mean, the reason why we picked two male characters is because, really, of the traditional element of it's always sort of males as the villains, always males being really the henchmen, being big, strong, you know, guys who are able to pick people up and take them away. So that's really why we had a male villain and a male kidnapper, because it's the idea of opposites, in that we have a very young female, you know, someone who lives alone, and then someone who works in team, you know, a team of two who are very strong, very big, always dressed in black, come to take her away, which actually leads me on to our film representing certain social groups, in which I believe we were very stereotypical, in that we have a helpless young girl being kidnapped by two strong, tall, masculine men. And I believe this to be very stereotypical, but also quite common and traditional within films, in that women have always been the ones to be put in danger or used as blackmail objects. I mean, after all, you know, almost every film has a theme of a damsel in distress. Therefore, it seemed quite fitting that we have this sort of, within a kidnapping scenario, that we emphasise the stereotype by having a mysterious, you know, or having two mysterious, dressed in black, big, tall, masculine men kidnapping this helpless young girl all alone in a big house.